Lexus would not be Lexus without the LS flagship sedan. When this came out in 1989, it destroyed the German sedans, at least for a while, in terms of price to performance. As the generations went on, we went from a 4-liter V8 to a 4.3-liter V8 to, well, add VVTi in there during the first and second generation LS to add more power just to the original 4-liter V8. Then it went to the 4.3-liter V8. Then it went to the 4.6-liter V8. And then for the current generation, the 5th generation, so we zoom down, the beloved, I think the 3rd generation was peak LS in my opinion. But we're now in the 5th generation. It's not been a sales success. And for 2 reasons. One, there's no longer V8s, twin turbo V6. And it just cannot hold a candle to the smoothness and refinement of the old naturally aspirated V8. Yes, it's more torquey, it's more powerful, it's more performance oriented, but this generation of LS went too sporty to keep up with the Germans. It did not need to do that, all right, in my opinion. They should have just stuck with the formula. We have heard rumors over the past few years that the LS is going to be discontinued. The GS was discontinued in 2020. The ES outsells this vehicle like, I don't know, like 30-1 or something. It's outrageous. And the ES is an OG Lexus too. The brand launched with the LS and the ES. And you just see the sales numbers here. All right, we'll just look at the I don't think we have total global sales really, but if we look at the US sales, it peaked in 07. All right, and then it rapidly fell off because you had all these original LS 400 and 430 buyers wanted the V8, all right, and then 35,000. Actually, it peaked in 1990. I should take a step back. The original LS 400 peaked in sales, but we saw a big resurgence in 07 with the launch of the 4th gen with the 4.6-liter V8, and look what happened in 2017, 2018. They launched a new generation, twin turbo V8, or sorry, twin turbo V6, and it fell from 9,000 units all the way to a paltry 2,000 units. So the LS is selling about, gosh, what, 5% of what it did back in 1990? It's not a success, and no one's really interested in the LS anymore. When the the ES feels more, in some ways, more like the original LS. I know it's not rear-wheel drive, I know it's not V8, but it's so smooth, and it's not trying to be anything too sporty, the ES. It just kind of embodies old school Lexus luxury, kind of like the LC500 does as well. And what else? I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the Lexus lineup that kind of feels like old Lexus. The IS still does. The LC, the ES, the crossovers, not really. It feels like modern Lexus, which has its strengths and lots of weaknesses. But the LS, what I'm getting at is that I can't believe I've already talked about the LS sedan for many minutes. We get this new scan out of Japan, another scoop magazine called Magazine X. They're typically not the most popular, but sometimes they have a unique scoop that's not nearly covered as much as the more popular scoop source from Japan, which is called Best Car. We're going to talk about the future of the LS, and a sedan's probably not in the cards. Guys, if you appreciate the history of the LS luxury sedan, smash the like / like button. I was about ready to say pour out one for our homie, because it looks like the LS as a sedan, it's dead in the water, more than likely. Okay, this is not official, but it seems to be the trend, right? The thing's not selling and it's not competitive. So what is Lexus going to do? Well, before I get too far into it, make sure you're subscribed, because they're talking about the RAV4. I might make an additional video on the RAV4. I wish we got this little next gen Honda E sort of vehicle. It's not coming. But they talk about the ES, and the ES, I think there's actually some really good information in here about the ES. So stay tuned for a follow-up video on the ES. What else? Maybe I'll make a video on the Subaru Outback redesign. I think this is a really good render of it, to be honest. One of the best illustrations of the new Outback that I've seen. I've made a video on the camouflage model, but yeah, stay tuned. I'll make some follow-up videos with these scans. All right, so let's go ahead and switch on over to the English version and sink our teeth into what Magazine X is hearing from their sources in Japan. The first thing they talk about here is the Century. And the Century is a flagship sedan, a VIP sedan that we don't get in America. We never have unless you import them, over 25 years old. The Century has had V8s in the past. It's had V12s. They're talking about how the Century, even though they still make this sedan, I think, they still make the Century sedan, and then they introduced the Century SUV, which watch my walk around of this Century SUV that I did last year, Japan Mobility Show 2023, technically a little over a year ago. So the transition is there for SUVs and minivans to be the VIP chauffeur vehicle in many markets. All right. And so they also say, okay, well, that's kind of an indication of where the LS could go because the Century went that way. And then they bring up, do you guys remember the LF1 Limitless concept? This gorgeous design right here. This vehicle, it was very exciting. I was working for Lexus. I think it came out in 2017, something like that, this concept. And Lexus wanted to make a flagship performance SUV to fight the Porsche Cayenne. The problem is that they were hamstrung by their terribly designed L platform. Yes, the LC is on the L platform, but the LS is too. And we've never seen any other vehicle in the United States on the L platform because it was too heavy, too inflexible. They couldn't make a good performance car out of it. That's why the LCF was discontinued. And that's why this LF1 Limitless never made it to production. And they were saying, hey, twin turbo V8 was going to come in here, 600 horsepower. This is dead. It's gone. We're never going to see a performance SUV until maybe solid state batteries, fully electric sort of thing. All right. Don't get your hopes up. All right. So they're saying, okay, so they've pivoted. Instead of doing a performance SUV, which they cannot compete on because they don't have the performance built into their existing platforms, they're taking a step back and they're saying, okay, well, the Century went SUV. We're gonna do this to the Lexus lineup as well. And they don't have confirmation here that it would be called an LS, a Lexus LS SUV, because here's the thing. Yes, they could call it the LS, but that would defy their naming nomenclature because LS stands for luxury sedan. LX, which the body and frame SUV modeled from the traditional Land Cruiser 200, 100, now based off the current 300 series. That's LX luxury crossover. This is a crossover, so they could call it the LSX. That would be cool. That would make sense to me. But X would have to be in my opinion, if they're going to go that route. So let me know what you would want if they just cancel the LS sedan. I know it's sad. I'm not going to get into it and shed it here on camera. But they cancel the LS sedan and replace it with a flagship SUV that is more VIP focused. The LX tries, and it has the VIP package on it, but it's not nearly as luxurious as the Century SUV. I think LSX would make sense here. Now, it seems like this would just be a 2-row SUV. It would not be a 3-row SUV. But for the North American market, maybe they change it. The thing is, I think the Century SUV is only 2 rows as well. So who knows? It's based off of, here's the thing. And they go on. They're like, okay, well, they could have made a more luxury focused SUV, rear wheel drive on the the TNGA L platform. Remember, they're going to make this limitless SUV, LF1 Limitless. Some people said it was going to be called the LQ. That was going to be front engine, rear wheel drive, traditional performance focused. And since they couldn't compete on performance, they could still use the L platform for a luxury VIP machine. But that doesn't seem to be the case because look at the Century SUV. That's based off the K platform. It's a modified version of the Grand Highlander and the Lexus TX. Okay, so think of this as a TX, but like the TX is not, it's kind of laughable in terms of a luxury perspective. It's a nice SUV, but it's not that much nicer than the Grand Highlander. Sit in a Century SUV, it's hard to say like, wow, this is just a nice version of the Grand Highlander. It doesn't feel like that at all. No, I haven't driven one yet. They have the possibility to spruce up that K platform enough to really differentiate it from the TX. So that's what they're going to do. Now, what's worrying me is that Mag X is saying that this will use a powertrain that I'm not super excited about. This is the 2.4 turbo hybrid with a 6-speed automatic with an electric motor between the engine and the automatic to power the front wheels. And then you have a large e-axle on the back to power the rear wheels. I'm not a big fan of it in a vehicle of this cost. If this is going to be a flagship and you have a turbo 4-cylinder, no one's going to buy it. It would be dead on arrival. But if they put the V6 plug-in hybrid in this standard, which they should, from the Grand I guess it's the same thing. It's the same powertrain that's seen in the TX plug-in hybrid. That sort of plug-in hybrid should be the standard powertrain here. It should not. This 4-cylinder has no place in a flagship SUV that could be costing $150,000. It's laughable. So I really hope that's not the case. I hope that they're just guessing and saying that it's a 2.4 turbo hybrid. 2.4 turbo hybrid is in, I mean, you can get it on the Grand Highlander as well as the Toyota Crown SUV and those, sorry, Toyota Crown sedan, not SUV, Toyota Crown sedan. And those are $50,000 vehicles, $55,000 vehicles, somewhere around there. This powertrain has no business being in this expensive of a vehicle. They mentioned plug-in hybrid, and that's the route I think they should go. But that plug-in hybrid, in my opinion, should not use a turbo 4-cylinder, should be the V6 only. They're saying that this vehicle is really not designed for the driver. This is a vehicle designed for VIPs. All right. The LS isn't really designed for VIPs. It's too small in the back. Like the ES has more legroom, if I remember correctly, than the LS. Like that's not okay. The LS is just it seems a very compromised product, all right, from a VIP standpoint. If you have a 4 or 5-seater, especially a 4-seater like this, like the Century SUV, it's true luxury, especially if the door pops off and slides back almost like a minivan. That's true luxury. Now, minivan, like the LM, unfortunately, is not available in America. It probably wouldn't do here due to the stupid, egotistical perspective of Americans on minivans. Minivans are treated as the ultimate VIP machine in China, in Asia. In America, they're kind of laughed at. I don't know why, because here's the thing. I just took my whole family, filled up every single seat in the Nissan Armada, body on frame SUV. All right, which there's a luxury version, the QX80. And we went to the big box store. We went to Sam's Club, filled every nook and cranny of that thing, and then we didn't even buy that much. That's why minivans they just have so much more practical space. Since we're not getting the Century SUV, like 99% sure, even though there are rumors about the Century SUV coming here, Lexus needs to have their own variant. It could be bespoke only. It could be custom order only. That's all I have to say here about the LSX is what I'm going to call it, or the future of the LS. The LS sedan is 99% sure dead. They're not going to make another flagship sedan. There are no sales in it. There's no money in it. And that market has completely evaporated over the years. Even the S-Class and the Germans have shrinking sales volume on their large full-size sedans. And then there's a reason why Acura killed the Legend / RLX. There's a reason why the Fuga Nissan killed off / what was it in the UX? The Q70, is that what it was called? They're so rare that it doesn't even register in my memory banks. It's just kind of the natural evolution of things, at least with the current trends on the market. They could make this fully battery electric if they wanted to. Sorry, it's actually cold here. That's why I'm like dripping a little bit of snot. It's like the real feel down here in Florida is 36 this morning. That's why I have a jacket on. Like I'm not going to turn the heater on in the house. If you're a Floridian, you know when you turn the heater on, it smells like terrible burnt dust for like a couple days in your house. So I will see you in the comments. I just want to make a follow-up video on the LS, the future of the LS. It's almost guaranteed to be transformed. The essence of the LS is to be transformed into a VIP luxury SUV that would compete with the Bentayga, what the Cullinan to some degree, and not typically focused just on performance. It's focused on providing the best experience possible for the passengers in the back. You could lay fully flat. You could have a huge screen, a 26-inch screen or something in the backseat, maybe even bigger. I know it could be bigger, probably like what I'm looking at, a 42-inch screen in the back, champagne coolers, umbrellas, crystal, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, spa treatment, massaging seats in the back, glass, the glass technology that Lexus has. You press a button, it's seen on the Century SUV, you press a button and the windows go frosted. You cannot see inside the windows whatsoever, but you also can't see outside of them. All right, but it really, really gives it a cozy, isolated environment when you're able to smoke out the windows. So that's the sort of technology that would be carried over from the Century as well. You know, it's sad. I'm going to miss the LS, but this generation of LS never did it for me anyways. It didn't need to be faster. It didn't need to have a sportier suspension. It needed to have a V8, and it needed to stay true to its identity as one of the nicest riding and most luxury focused sedans in the market. And they lost the plot chasing the Germans. Also lost the plot with a twin turbo V6 instead of a V8. But maybe I'm just too old. Maybe I have too old of a heart. Maybe I'm just not hip or modern enough. But you know what? The young people are not buying full-size sedans. It seems like it's a dying thing anyways. And if the ES is doing 85% of the LS's job for half the price, about half the price of an LS, then the LS doesn't have a snowball's chance. Okay, and the ES does some things better than the LS anyway. So for a lot less money. So stay tuned for my ES video update, and I'll see you guys in the comments. And I'm sure there'll be some tears shed for the LS. It's not officially canceled, but the RC just got canceled, and the LS, I think it's just the clock's ticking. Peace out.